Donald Trump wants you to think that he is inevitable. He wants you to believe that he will always win. It is what law firms, colleges, major media outlets have believed throughout Donald Trump's presidency, that there is no point in fighting back, that they should just capitulate. It's the easiest way out, but it's not. It is not the easy way out, because when you give the bully your lunch money, he comes back hungrier. But when you stand up to him, he will crumble, because Donald Trump is fundamentally weak. He's a baby and he is a loser. And someone who knows that and is acting on it in a way that is blowing up Donald Trump's presidency is James Comey, who is fighting back tonight in a video that he just posted that has Donald Trump making an insane post after he coerced the DOJ into an indictment. We're going to get into it all, but before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button, because it goes a long way in supporting our work. Now, before we can get into Comey's response, why it's so important, in the insane Trump post, I want to start with all the news we need on this indictment coming from Chris Hayes right here.
Good evening from New York. I'm Chris Hayes. Donald Trump's Department of Justice announced this evening that former FBI Director James Comey has been indicted by a grand jury on 2 counts, making a false statement and obstruction. Now, the charges stem from Comey's testimony before Congress back on September 30th, 2020, and that specific date is very important because the statute of limitations on these charges is 5 years, which means the last possible date to charge Comey with this crime, lying during that testimony, would be September 30th, 2025. That is next Tuesday. In a statement, the brand new U.S. attorney prosecuting Comey, Lindsay Halligan, fresh on the job, having never, ever prosecuted a single case, wrote, quote, "The balance of power is a bedrock principle of our democracy. It relies upon accountability and a forthright presentation of facts from executive leadership to congressional oversight," misspelling the word principle. In a post on social media, Attorney General Pam Bondi said today, quote, "Today's indictment reflects this Department of Justice's commitment to holding those who abuse positions of power accountable for misleading the American people." FBI Director Kash Patel said, quote, "For far too long, previous corrupt leadership and their enablers weaponized federal law enforcement, damaging once proud institutions and severely eroding public trust." Of course, that is exactly what is happening here. Donald Trump's administration and the enablers around it are very clearly and forthrightly abusing federal law enforcement in a way that we have not ever seen, at least since Nixon and probably before then, to punish political opponents, people who say things they don't like, people who have taken political actions they don't like, or law enforcement actions they do not like. Trump can barely even bring himself to deny that he is personally directing these investigations and indictments.
This is such a dark moment in a string of such dark moments. You don't need me to tell you that. We have been living this, and it is incredibly tiring. If I can speak personally for a second before we get into the news, I have felt like shit all day. I have felt exhausted. I have felt, frankly, depressed is the only word I can use for it. Seeing a video of a woman crying and being thrown to the ground by ICE as they stole her husband from her has had me distraught. This is an administration that wants us living in that type of fear, that type of agony. And that is the step that Donald Trump is taking with his indictment of his political enemy in James Comey tonight. That is how Donald Trump wants all of us to feel. But in this moment, the fact that James Comey's response was one of strength, and I don't love James Comey. Honestly, fuck James Comey in so many ways. But what he said tonight is so important. It has Trump going crazy, but I want to see what he had to say first.
My family and I have known for years that there are costs to standing up to Donald Trump, but we couldn't imagine ourselves living any other way. We will not live on our knees, and you shouldn't either. Somebody that I love dearly recently said that fear is the tool of a tyrant, and she's right. But I'm not afraid, and I hope you're not either. I hope instead you are engaged. You are paying attention, and you will vote like your beloved country depends upon it, which it does. My heart is broken for the Department of Justice, but I have great confidence in the federal judicial system, and I'm innocent. So let's have a trial and keep the faith.
This is the point we have been making on this show as much as we possibly can. Donald Trump wants you to live in fear. You cannot live in fear. You cannot let Donald Trump dictate the terms of this fight. You cannot let Donald Trump tell us what we're going to do. We can't pre-capitulate. We can't bend the knee out of fear of what the fight is going to be. We just have to fucking fight. We just have to fucking fight. And he is furious when we do that because he knows he cannot win. Is Jimmy Kimmel back on the air? Did Donald Trump win that battle? No. All the lawsuits he's been doling out lately, is he winning any of those? Of course not, because he's a loser, and it's why he posted this. Justice in America, one of the worst human beings this country has ever been exposed to, is James Comey and the former corrupt head of the FBI. Today, he was indicted by a grand jury on 2 felony counts for various illegal and unlawful acts. He has been so bad for our country for so long and is now at the beginning of being held responsible for his crimes against our nation make America great again. Donald Trump is good at about one thing, and that is picking enemies that make his arguments and make his authoritarian takeover seem not more legitimate or more palatable, but it makes it difficult for us to communicate the severity of these attacks. I can tell you most people in America don't really give a shit about James Comey. Probably most people in America don't know who he is. And us, Democrats, we don't even like the guy. But what we do like is the rule of law. You don't have to watch Jimmy Kimmel's show every night to know that in America, he shouldn't lose his ability to have that show, not because of ratings or a business decision, as the right wants to tell you, but because of government censorship. That's what happened to Jimmy Kimmel, but we fought back against it. And that is why ABC will now be in a fight with Donald Trump. Why? Because they are more afraid of us than him. That is the fear that we have to instill in this administration. Donald Trump right now wants James Comey to bend the knee. He wants James Comey to crumble. We saw he is not going to do that. That is honorable. That is what we need in this moment. And that is such a blow, I am telling you, to Donald Trump. When people wake up to the fact that this is a petty, weak, wannabe authoritarian who does not have the control that most people would believe, it's a real big problem for Donald Trump. It's a real crisis for him. It is a real struggle because he cannot win these battles. He wants you to think that it is not even worth trying. But I promise you, it is worth trying. It is worth the fight. And we are tired. Once again, I think I can just be open and honest here. I have felt like shit all day long. And it's partly because I knew this was coming. And every day it's something to keep us down, and that's the point. Donald Trump wants us to disassociate, to be discouraged, to not have the community that keeps us energized. And this community is one that does give me and you and hopefully so many of us the power and the energy to fight, where we can just get on here and tell this guy to fuck off. Because we're going to keep doing that. But we just have to remember that the biggest obstacle in the way of fighting back against this administration is the mental roadblock of thinking nothing can be done. People power is bigger than the intimidation of the president. Believe that. Know it. Act on it. If you canceled Disney Plus, if you canceled Hulu, if you helped tank Disney stock, you know that power. You know that feeling. Let's continue to ride with it. What James Comey did tonight is such a blow to Trump's presidency, because it instructs us all to act that way and hopefully our leaders to do the same. This will be a grueling fight, and I want to keep you all updated on it, so I have a little bit more from MSNBC.
As the person that reported out, how significant is this moment?
I'll use the words, Chris, that prosecutors and federal investigators are saying to me tonight, which is simply chilling. Chilling because a seasoned prosecutor who was appointed by the Trump administration, chosen by Donald Trump and his allies, looked at the facts in this case and said there wasn't a sufficient reasonable basis to bring it and was resisting bringing it, was pressured to resign or be forced out, thrown out on the curb, and he chose to resign. Days later, a person with no prosecutorial experience is the U.S. attorney, and these charges are brought. What's important here for people to understand is that prosecutors have a duty not just to see if they can get 23 people to say, yes, we agree with a one-sided version and we will indict this person. The duty is to bring cases only when you can sustain a conviction and when it is righteous. And in this case, there's serious questions about whether this is either a righteous case or has the facts that can sustain a conviction.
I want to close on this, and it may not feel like the tone or tenor that we need in this moment, but I sent out this tweet before I started recording this video. The next Democratic president will have to govern with a just vengeance. A just vengeance. The great failure of the American experiment was Reconstruction. That we did not make those who were traitors against our nation, against the Union, properly pay. We have people who are still traitors against this nation. They got pardons. They were reintegrated into our society. We were told to move on. We were told to forget. We were told that they were actually just on a Capitol tour. Those people are in our communities now, reoffending. Donald Trump doesn't care, law and order. They're also in our government. Those people continue to commit crimes. The next Democratic president has to make sure that it is known who they are, what they've done, and how they have broken our country. And the only way to fix that is to make sure that we send a message. I'm not really joking. In some ways I am. In other ways I'm not. When I say we should keep Alligator Alcatraz open for Stephen Miller. But it's not about that as much as it is making clear that we are not playing politics as normal when we return. That it takes more than that to fix what has been broken. That there will be no Kash Patel gets his 10-year term as FBI director, fire the fuck on day one. Emil Bove said, we are not listening to the laws. He was in the DOJ. He now has a lifetime appointment. He should lose it. He doesn't respect it. Donald Trump should not get off. Pam Bondi should not get off. Pete Hegseth should not get off. These people have attacked our country. There should be legal retribution because they're criminals. I know that sounds a lot like what Donald Trump has said, but it is different. Why? Because they have broken the law. And I'm going to keep that in mind. I'm going to call that out. I hope you can support that. And if you want to, I just think it's the right thing to say in this moment. As always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video. If you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. If you want to support the show in another way, you can subscribe to my Substack. It'll be linked here or below. We are going to keep on fighting. I'm going to shoot straight with y'all, I promise. You need to keep on fighting. Donald Trump is not inevitable. We are. Don't let him silence you. Until next time, I'll see you soon.